In this election, we could see up to 5 GRCs come into play, as shown in this slide. The 3 GRCs with blue borders are East Coast, Aljunied, and Molmen Kalang, which will likely be contested by the Workers' Party. WP Secretary General Mr. Lau Tia Kiang has said to expect significant surprises on nomination day, and that is why I feel that these 3 GRCs may well be the focus for where the WP will make its main push. The area shaded in orange is Tampines, where the NSP will field a team. And the area in blue is Bishan Toa Payoh, where Mr. Cham Si Tong's SPP will contest. The significance of these 5 GRCs is their relative proximity to each other. What you will likely see is that the intensity of a 9-day election campaign will generate the sort of energy from the opposition campaigns in each of these GRCs, and the energy will spill over across the electoral boundaries. In other words, it will be mutually reinforcing, providing a multiplier effect. This is the advantage of having electoral contests near to each other. The opposition parties will simply leverage on this geographical aspect. Having said all that, for any opposition party to take down a GRC is no easy task. This is largely due to the law of large numbers, a concept I delivered in a book on the 1997 Singapore general election. What the concept essentially means is that the larger the electoral division, such as a GRC, the more likely will the vote there follow the popular vote nationwide. GRCs, therefore, are not double-edged swords that favor either the opposition parties or the PAP. The reason why there will be a focus in this election on the GRCs is because of the likelihood of quite a number of multi-cornered contests in the 12 single-member constituencies. This will split the opposition vote, even if it may lead to a diversion of a few percentage points in the vote to the weaker or weakest of the opposition candidates. That may be sufficient to hand victory to the PAP candidate. Additionally, and what has rarely been said, is that in multi-cornered contests, the PAP vote would in all likelihood be artificially inflated. And this can, in fact, be measured. For instance, if in a straight fight, the opposition candidate is expected to secure more than 40% of the vote, in a 3-cornered fight, you could see the PAP candidate take close to 65% of the vote. This happens when some of those in the wavering middle ground who would have been inclined to vote for the opposition change their minds because they are unimpressed that the opposition could not cooperate or collaborate to take on the PAP. In their view, the opposition failed the initial tests and do not deserve their vote. In the SMCs, the interesting contest will likely be in Potong Pasir, where there are doubts whether Mrs. Lina Cham can hold a seat which has been in opposition hands for 27 years. Voters there should be aware that if the PAP wins the seat, then the likelihood is that in 4 to 5 years' time, the ward will probably cease to exist. It will likely be absorbed into a GRC. That is what has happened most times, though not always, to former opposition constituencies. Once won back by the PAP, they would subsequently be broken up or absorbed into a GRC. For Potong Pasir, the case for its absorption into a GRC is even more compelling, as it is the smallest size electoral division, and it can be argued that it does not make economic sense to allow it to exist separately, as it cannot enjoy economies of scale from town council management. Punggol East, where there will likely be a three-cornered fight, but what is of interest here is how well the PAP's likely, as I use the word likely, ethnic minority candidate, Mr. Michael Palmer's vote holds up. The vote there will therefore be closely watched as a bellwether of the extent of interracial harmony in Singapore. Mountbatten, where the NSP has fielded a strong candidate in the lawyer, Mrs. Jeanette Chong Aruldos. Sengkang West, where the Workers' Party stands a good chance, even though there will likely be a minor third candidate complicating the race. Whampoa, due to the nature of this constituency, which has large number of lower middle income neighborhoods, and the fact that it is sandwiched between Molmen, Kallang and Bishan Tua Payoh GRCs, it will allow the NSP's Kanson to make it a keenly fought contest. Pioneer, where the NSP's Steve Chia, if he does get a straight fight, stands a good chance, as he has name recognition, having once been a non-constituency MP. But Pioneer is also claimed by the Reform Party.
On the likely races, right? Yes, I think taking a GRC, is something that Mr. Lau has put it as a top priority for the opposition, and I suppose he meant that for the Workers' Party as well. Derek suggested that the Workers' Party, is likely to be conservative and would probably split its top-notch candidates into two teams. I think I would probably agree with that, but I fear that may not be enough for the Workers' Party to wrestle a GRC from the PAP. In order to win a GRC, I'm of the view that the Workers' Party needs to field a dream team. Right? An A team is not good enough. They would need a dream team that would tell the voters, this is how serious we are about winning a GRC. We are putting, for want of a better phrase, right, all our eggs in this particular basket. Right? If you put a team, let's say, that comprises Mr. Lau Tia Kiang, Ms. Sylvia Lim, Mr. Chen Shou Mao, and I think it would be very hard, right, for the voters not to give the Workers' Party team very, very careful consideration. I have no disagreement with Derek on where I think the hot contest will be in the GRC, except for Aljunied. Right, I think Aljunied this time round will not be anything like 2006. I think the battleground has shifted for the Workers' Party to either East Coast or Momin Kallang. Let me just give you, unlike Derek, Derek criticized me, right? Partly because I'm an armchair commentator, right? But let me just give you what I see, right? When you look at how the PAP announced its lineup for East Coast GRC, I think to me that reflected the deep concern that the PAP had with regards to East Coast GRC. Right? They have attempted to preempt the Workers' Party from sending a strong team to East Coast GRC, right, by putting someone who is known to work the ground well, right, Mr. Lim Swee Say, right, notwithstanding the fact that Mr. Lim Swee Say has never contested in the elections, or rather, he has never been in all the constituencies that he was fielded in. He has never seen a contest. East Coast GRC is also a GRC where the PAP is not fielding any new candidate, right? And I think that may say something, right? The Workers' Party announced its intention, to win a GRC, right? Where Mr. Lau Tia Kiang did a walkabout again in East Coast GRC. So I would put that I think East Coast GRC or Momin Kallang, right, would see the closest contest. Momin Kallang, simply because it's over with only 4 members, I think it is relatively easier to maintain a high quality of candidates throughout the slate. In Tampines, NSP is certainly trying to make hay out of Singaporeans' deep concern over property. Right? As I wrote in a commentary, property is not something that Singaporeans think of, right? It is actually something that they think with as well, right? But I'm not sure that contesting the elections on a single issue, right, will enable the NSP to counter Mr. Ma's team in Tampines. But I think we will see, a close fight nonetheless. Tampines is also interesting for the PAP, right, because here they plan to field the ex-Monetary Authority of Singapore MD, Mr. Heng Swee Keat. And I think this is one of the unusual situations in which you see a new candidate, in a way, beefing up the team, right? Rather than, typically we tend to look at new candidates as riding on the coattails of the established ministers. But I think here the PAP will certainly run the campaign on the grounds that, look at Mr. Heng, would you not want him to be in Parliament? One other hotspot which I think may be possible, right, would be Marine Parade GRC. If there is a contest in Marine Parade GRC, I would expect SM Go, to if there was a contest in Marine Parade GRC, I think the PAP team there will be hard pressed to deliver a good result. Marine Parade GRC, pretty much like Tanjong Pagar GRC, has this image of being a rock-solid PAP ground, right? And so if there is a contest, right, all eyes will be on how large the margin will be, right? And of course, if the margin is not as significant as it should be, or if it falls below the PAP's national average, then I think, that would be a significant blow, right, to the lead minister there. Now, Marine Parade GRC, it's a bit unusual in the sense that it is seen as a rock-solid PAP ground, to the point that sometimes the PAP, I suspect, doesn't take the constituency seriously enough. In the 2006 general elections, the PAP fielded 4 new candidates out of 6 in Marine Parade GRC. The 5th candidate had just completed his first term, Dr. Ong Se Hong. And of course, Marine Parade GRC is led by Senior Minister Goh. Right. This time round, they appear to be a bit more measured with the likelihood of Brigadier General Tan Chuan Jin and Ms. Tin Pei Ling being the 2 new candidates in a 5-member Marine Parade GRC team. So I think it would be interesting, right, to see how the contest in Marine Parade develops. And I speak of Marine Parade, right, with some fondness because I have been residing in Marine Parade since 1974, right? And so you certainly take a lot more interest in what goes on in your neighborhood.